Let's review. So far, we've looked at a planned economy or communism, which is an economy where the government controls everything to ensure equality. And we've looked at a market economy or capitalism, which is a system where the government stays out of things so that people will compete with each other to have the best standard of living. Wait, what standard of living? That's the amount of money or resources you have. It's different from quality of life, which is how happy or satisfied you are with your living conditions. You can have a good quality of life without having a lot of money, or a terrible quality of life even though you have tons of money. But for most people, money or standard of living does play a role in their quality of life. Now, communists say you can have a good quality of life when your needs are taken care of by the government. You don't need a high standard of living because family and creativity are more important. Capitalists say you can have a good quality of life when you take care of yourself and try to achieve that high standard of living so that you have the money to do more with your family and express your creativity. Canada mixes those two systems to try and get the best quality of life and standard of living for our citizens. We let private companies provide the things that people want, like fast food or clothing stores, and the government provides the things that people need, like healthcare and education. And we pay for those programs through taxes. Remember, socialism is government control, and Canadians don't mind some government control, especially when it helps to make sure that people are taken care of. We pay taxes to give the government the money they need to pay for all those services. There are two key types of taxes we pay: income tax, which is money taken off your paycheck, and the taxes we pay when we purchase goods and services, like the GST, and outside of Alberta there's PST or HST. Because some equality is important to Canadians, we use the socialist idea of progressive taxation, where you pay more income tax if you earn more money. The less fortunate pay less or no taxes, and they'll still have access to those expensive government services. We're going to explain this a little bit more in the final video for this unit. Taking from the rich and giving to the poor is called income redistribution. We also have things called crown corporations, which are businesses that are owned by the government. We have a queen at the head of our state, thus the term crown. These crown corporations are there to provide services at a price that other private companies may not want to provide. Think about it. How much does it cost you to send a letter all the way around the world? That's because our post office is one of Canada's crown corporations. But when the government has control over parts of the economy, that means we also lose some freedoms. One freedom we don't have is the right to decide if we want to pay for government services that are provided to everyone. We have to pay the taxes. But remember, Canada does want to mix these socialist ideas with capitalist ideas. You can see the ideas of a capitalist economy all around us. Most high school students that have a job are in a capitalist institution. It's privately owned, and the owner's goal is to make profits that they get to keep. You take the profits you make from your wages and spend them in other places, making the economy grow. So let's review those three economic questions again and see how Canada answers them. What to produce? Well, some things are produced based on demand. What do people want to buy? That's the capitalist side to our mixed economy. But other things are produced by the government because they know it's important for everyone to have access to it, like building new hospitals. That's the socialist side to our mixed economy. How to produce it? In Canada, the government employs some people for services like schools or will create jobs to keep people employed. But most of the things we buy are produced by private companies that will decide if they want to make things as cheap as possible or focus on high quality. Of course, we do have labor laws that prevent those companies from abusing their workers, so there is some government control. Who gets it? For most of the things we buy, it's based on how much money you have, and how much money you have depends on your job. But there are some things that we all share the cost of by having the government control it, like the building of highways or fire services. Sounds good, right? A nice mix of both. Well, it's not perfect. One of the downsides with government control is the cost. Because we don't usually see a bill for something like our health care, it can get abused. Do you know anybody who's gone to the emergency room when it really wasn't a medical emergency? There's also something called bureaucracy, which is all of the people hired to help things run smoothly, like managers and secretaries and lawyers. Government organizations are notorious for having large and expensive bureaucracies. And we often find that when the government runs a business, it's not as efficient as a privately owned company because the employees know that the government will pay the bills and aren't worried about making a profit like a privately owned company would. For example, several years ago, the government started a gun registry that would cost gun owners $100 to register their gun. After a few years, the government organization in charge of this registry ended up being millions and millions of dollars in debt. Yet at the same time, cattle ranchers helped to organize a registry for cattle. It cost $5 to register a cow, and that organization was able to make a small profit. This is why many Canadians today want to see the government reduce the role that they play in the economy. This is called a shift right. Remember how we talked about the shift left in the United States? We see the millions of dollars the government spends, and we worry that the government may not be using our money in the right way. It's important to pause here for a second and point out that the government doesn't just take our money and spend it however they want. When the government collects taxes, they must report on how much they've collected, and then they must get approval from the legislature on how to spend all that money. It's called power of the purse, and it means that the government doesn't get the money, they just get to decide how to share it with Canadians. Okay, back to Canada's shift right. This can be a very controversial topic because what outsiders may see as waste, the government might be able to say is really actually important. For example, a few years ago, a lot of Canadians supported the idea of the government reducing the number of meat inspectors, that maybe the government had hired too many people and it was costing us too much. But then we had several cases where people became very sick, and in some occasions, people died because of improperly processed meats that had been contaminated. There are also cases of contaminated water, or train crashes, or oil spills. And after the emergency, those in charge admitted that inspections weren't being done often enough because there weren't enough inspectors. So then the public cries out that we need more inspectors. That's why it's important for you to understand economic issues. It's not just as easy as telling the government, you need to save money and protect us and provide services for us. It's a very difficult balance to create and maintain.